One time I saw a guy go through $500 and $20 scratch-off lottery tickets. He looked at the woman behind the counter and said, quote, "Well, there goes the rent money." You guys love our React series. The team went out and found some of the crazy financial things that are on Reddit.
Brian, I am so excited about this because I love when we get to see what the world is saying out there on the internet. And hopefully, in some of these crazy stories, we can share some nuggets that may be valuable for you to help you go beyond common sense. But first, before we dive in, if you've not subscribed, make sure you click on subscribe right now so you can know all the times that we release new content just like that. Without further ado, Brian, here we go.
My cousin bought a camper. Went camping once and then decided camping wasn't for them. Rather than selling it, they decided to just stop making the payments and let the bank come and get it, which eventually they did.
Yeah, so this is a common thread. Oh man, I bought this thing. I don't want this thing anymore. You know what? If I don't want it, I'm just gonna stop paying for it and they'll come get it. Brian, why might that may not have been the most advantageous strategy?
Well, when you make consumption decisions that are especially leveraged consumption decisions, you're not only making a decision for something that's a hobby that this person didn't even at least go field try and see if they liked doing this as a hobby before they went and financially committed themselves. You also screw up your credit.
Yep.
Now it's probably going to impact the next time they need to buy a car, when they try to go refinance a house or buy a house. Here's the best option. Go find a friend that has made a horrible financial decision of like buying an RV, bought a lake house, owns a boat. Go hang out with them and use their bad financial decision.
All right,
that's the better way to do this.
Let's check out this next one. All right, here we go, Brian. My aunt took me to a car dealership when I was looking to buy my own first car. I was looking at the clunkers I could afford, but she said I should be looking at the new cars. She said the total price doesn't matter because you only make monthly payments.
Are we sure this aunt didn't actually work for the dealership?
Was she the car salesman? Was she the one sitting there getting the commission on the sale?
Because I feel like when you're doing any financial or automobile transaction, it's the whole Wile E. Coyote. They're over there trying to put pine straw on the financial trap to see if you'll spring it. And the first trap you'll fall into is I say, hey, you know, what can you afford on each month? That is the wrong decision. That's getting you to focus on the cash flow of what the payment is. You need to be thinking about what is the obligation that you're signing on for. We like 23/8, 20% down, don't finance longer than 3 years. That will keep you from letting your eyes and your desires and your ego exceed what your wallet and purse can afford. And then make sure that those payments don't exceed 8% of your income. Here's the big thing, Bo, is that most cars now are financed between 70 and 72 months, and they are focusing only on the payments. It's a complete disaster.
That's exactly right. People will say, oh, you can afford anything if you just afford it 1 month at a time. We would argue it is really, really easy to go broke if you're focusing on doing it 1 month at a time. This is horrible advice, and I hope if your aunt is watching this video, she feels a little guilty for giving you such bad advice.
Don't make more money. You'll go up a tax bracket and end up paying more taxes, so you'll end up making less overall, end quote. Holy cow. This isn't how taxes work, people.
It is absolutely not how taxes work, Brian. This is a mathematical flaw here that's just hugely inaccurate.
Well, it's the literally tax tail wagging the dog. I want you to become the best version of yourself financially. And if you're worried about making more money because of taxes, then you're not thinking big enough.
We live in a progressive tax system. And so what this means is that just because you go into the next tax bracket, it does not mean that all of your income is taxed at that bracket. So if you made $100 and it was taxed at 20%, and then you make $110, it's not like all $110 will be taxed at the next tax bracket. Only the additional marginal money would be taxed at the higher bracket. So all else equal, if you are making more money, even if you're moving into higher tax brackets, you are still netting more money. This is a mathematical flaw and it is inaccurate. Don't fall prey to this flawed thinking. A friend's family taught them to take out as many store cards and credit cards as they could. And as long as the minimum was paid, they'd be able to live a luxurious lifestyle.
Gracious.
They were almost $100,000 in debt when they finally told me, from dozens of cards and interest, car loan, etc. Then did not want to discuss it further after I offered advice, like a lawyer or counseling. It's simply how their parents lived. Live off of credit far beyond your means. I could not live with that stress. It's so normal for some people though. I think you would be amazed if you could actually see the balance sheets of your friends and your neighbors and your colleagues at how many Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and are literally up to their eyeballs in debt.
It is so much better to be wealthy than to look rich.
Yep.
And I feel like in our consumption society where you can afford anything you want if you can afford the monthly payments, this is the message that is pounded out there. Guys, it's just not healthy. Nope. If you think that the stress of being on this hamster wheel of life and this rat race is going to be better by the more you buy and consume and the stuff you have, you've lost the plot.
Yep.
I mean, the bigger part is understanding what makes you tick, what brings you happiness. Do more of that, but don't let somebody put these false lifestyle decisions in you where you're keeping up with the Joneses to the point that you build up stress, anxiety, and all these things that are pulling at your back pocket and just taking away every little ounce of happiness that you could have in your life. Be a financial mutant, live on less than you make, focus on discipline, letting your money work, and having the time to grow into something really beautiful. That's what a financial mutant does. I have seen two people who were previously lower/middle class suddenly come into a windfall. One was $5 million. The other was $10 million.
That's
wow.
big money.
Both promptly began working hard to throw it away and learn that yes, not only is it possible to blow that much money, but it doesn't take very long to do it either.
See, I feel like, Brian, here's what happened. A lot of people that grew up in our generation, right? A lot of people our age, they saw Brewster's Millions and they thought, oh, it must be hard. It must be really, really difficult to blow through money. If I get a windfall, maybe I sell a piece of land, maybe I get an inheritance, maybe it's 100,000, maybe it's 1 million, maybe it's 5 million, maybe it's 10 million. You would be amazed that bad financial decision making doesn't care how many zeros are at the end of the bank account. Even at those huge sums of money, you can run out, you can overspend, you can blow literal once in a lifetime opportunities if you don't steward it well.
I hope I say this right, is that there's studies out there that show that people who've won the lottery have a higher likelihood of bankruptcy than people who don't win the lottery. Yep. And you're like, wait a minute.
How's that even
How
possible?
does somebody come into a large windfall of money and have a higher likelihood of failure? And guys, this is what you need to know. It's just not going to be what gives you fulfilling happiness that lasts a lifetime. What comes from that is knowing your why, know what makes you happy, knowing what actually brings great memories that blossom over time. And it's typically not the stuff, it's more of the experiences. And that's what I think people who come into windfalls without the depth of knowledge to know, how do you deal with money? How do you make your money work as hard, if not even harder than you do with your back, your brain, and your hands? People lose it. They think that it's all about the consumption. And I'm telling you, it's more about your army of dollar bills and then building your best financial life.
When Bitcoin went through the roof, a friend of mine took about $10,000 out of his retirement account and invested in it. Since then, I've been watching him sink lower and lower into the ground, watching that money evaporate. His $10,000 is now $2,000 and he can't pull it out or he'll lose everything for good. Now, here's what I think is really, really interesting. I don't know the friend situation, but what I do know is that $10,000 investment, or I'm gonna say that $10,000 speculation, must have been pretty severe relative to his entire financial picture, because as Bitcoin has gone down, and we see that now his value has lost 80% of its initial value, he's getting lower and lower and lower and lower. Not only did he rob from his future self by taking this money out of a retirement account, but he made a speculative investment that is clearly affecting every other aspect of his life. If you're going to do something like that, if you're going to speculate, you want to make sure you're doing that with vacation money, not with your eating money, not with the money that matters. And it sounds like this person, if they're pulling money out of retirement, certainly got that backwards.
Well, you said two important things there. Understanding the difference between speculating and investing. Speculating, look, if I'm bringing this back to real life, that's like fishing with for the big game. You go out there and you go deep sea fishing. You cast the reel out there. That's speculating. That's going out there and you're hunting for the big one big shot at a time. Investing needs to be a little bit more consistent, meaning that you're actually counting on, yes, you're going to go take some risk, but you're counting on getting a reward, a premium for putting that money out there. For that to be successful, do it like a commercial fisherman does. Throw a net in the water to capture as much as you can. And that's why we like index investing. Go and buying, instead of trying to beat the market, you're just buying into the market in the ever-expanding economy we talk about. And that's why the S&P 500 total market indexes, there's all kind of opportunities to just be part of mankind's ability to innovate and expand, and you just own it all instead of just trying to go out there and sport fish and get rich by cutting a corner off. That's not the way to true wealth. One time I saw a guy go through $500 and $20 scratch-off lottery tickets at a cigarette store. Man, there are so many things to unpack in that one sentence. Dropped $500, won back nothing. He looked at the woman behind the counter and said, quote, "Well, there goes the rent money." When you get at casinos right around midnight, you get around a casino around 11:45, I want you to watch the ATM machines to see how many people line up to go pull money out, because you know what happens at midnight? It's a new day to the banking system, so people can get back in and get the daily maximum out of those ATM machines. Guys, that's sad. And it's back to the point. Know what the difference between gambling and investing. That's just squandering and making bad life decisions.
Yeah, and I hope that this guy was saying this tongue-in-cheek, that there goes the rent money, because at the end of the day, there are certain things we have to make sure we have in place. We have to make sure we have shelter in place. We have to make sure we have food on the table. If you are making financial decisions that are putting those things at risk, you have gotten things completely twisted. You need to better think through what you're doing with your dollars. And we have a tried and true system that can help you do that. We have the financial order of operations that is 9 steps that shows you how and where your next dollar should go. And you will notice as you're looking through these 9 steps, if you go to moneyguy.com/resources and download yours, scratch off tickets is not one of the 9 steps, and it's certainly not one of the 9 steps with your rent money.
And they're not selling these at the cigarette store either.
They're not selling those at the cigarette store. My aunt has declared bankruptcy twice in her life due to never having learned her lessons. Recently, her husband's mother died and willed them a fully paid for house. So they do what a rational person would do, and they mortgage the house so they can renovate it. She just lost her job again, and now they are in danger of losing the house. Brilliant.
60% of the public can't come up with $1,000. And I feel like this aunt represents that, is that this person had a good thing come their way, a paid for house, and they have made bad lifestyle decisions. It's the whole thing where instead of taking the blessing and figuring out how you better yourself from this opportunity, they went and wanted more, and to the point that you leveraged and you took risk. And you lost it, and that's the problem. It's the lottery winners. It's the people who get the windfalls.
If you are someone who is in a dire financial situation, it is worthwhile to do a self-assessment of where you are, because we can talk about mathematics and strategy all day long, but we know that 80% of personal finance is behavioral. 80% of it is driven by the decisions that you make. It is unfortunate that this lady lost her job. But when I see one bankruptcy and then another bankruptcy, and then I see this positive thing happen, and the decision, the behavior, the choice to renovate the house, I begin recognizing this is not a money problem. This is not a math problem. This is a behavior problem. If you find yourself in this situation, you feel like you are always out of luck on your last dime, it is a worthwhile exercise. Say, man, am I making decisions right now today that are leading me down the wrong path? And if so, what are some things I can do to start moving in a different direction? Because unfortunately, this vicious cycle, at least in this situation, does not seem like it's going to prevent itself from continuing to happen over and over again.
So, Bo, this is a good one. This one's from it looks like a retro 2008 type quote. Because listen, check this one out. It says, "Get a bigger mortgage. You can deduct more from your taxes."
Oh, that's just good tax planning right there, right? I want the deductions. That's what I want. Give me that mortgage. It's all deductible. Why would I not go get as much and as high of a mortgage? And hey, good news right now, Brian. Interest rates are so high that mortgage interest is way up. So now I'm getting tons of
lemonades
now.
from those lemons. Here's what I think is interesting. The vast majority of people actually take the standard deduction, because that's why I say this could be a quote from 2008, is because it is true. Back in the past, the more mortgage interest, the more likely you were to itemize. But they have now pushed the standard deductions up so high when they did the tax reform of 2017 that it's one of those things where it's not that as the squeeze from the fruit is not as good as it once was. More than likely, if you go look at your own tax return, you'll see that you take a standard deduction, and you don't need to go take on more debt, more house than you can afford just so you can lower your taxes. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we have a saying, you never want to let the tax tail wag the investment dog, or in this case, you never want to let the tax tail wag the financial planning dog. Getting a bigger mortgage solely for the fact that you can deduct the interest, it's still a losing proposition. You still are going to have more money flowing out of your back pocket. That is not something you want to do. One of my uncles, and uncles are always great advice givers, once told me that I never really had to pay my phone bill. He suggested that I simply jump to another carrier and let the first company cut you off. His life has turned out exactly as you'd imagine. Do you have any uncles that maybe would suggest this kind of advice?
I love my family, but I will tell you, be careful taking financial advice from anybody that you wouldn't want their financial life. I mean, there's a lot to that, is that don't go take advice from people. This uncle obviously was not financially successful, but yet you'll see this is a common theme in America. There are a lot of people who've had financial failure still are very keen to go out there and give the young generation as much advice as possible. Not paying the bill catches up to you. You can get away with this once, you can get away with this twice, 3 times, but enough time is going to transpire that you will start having bad credit. You will end up in databases as somebody who is not worthy of doing business with. But while you're starting out, you might find the higher and the more bankable you are financially, the better it's going to serve you in the long term.
There is going to be no shortage of people out there trying to give you bad financial advice. They may not even think it's bad advice, but frankly it is. Well, that is exactly why we are here. We want to be that voice of reason that gives you sound, actionable advice that helps you to do money better. So if you've not checked out the website, go to moneyguide.com. Check out the website. We love that we can put this information together to deliver it to you so that you can take your finances to the next level.
Look, guys, you got to own your financial future, or it's going to own you, as we can see, especially taking advice from some of these folks out there on Reddit. There is definitely a better way. I'm your host, Brian Preston, Mr. Bo Hansen. Money Guy team, out of here.